P/E ratio, also known as price to earnings ratio, is a useful metric for determining the value of a company's share price. The P/E ratio is expressed simply. You just put the share price and divide it by earnings per share, also known as EPS. What does the P/E ratio tell you? Well, a high P/E ratio could mean that the company is overvalued or investors are expecting the company to grow quickly. A low P/E ratio could mean that the company is undervalued or investors really don't have much faith that it will grow quickly. When comparing a company's P/E ratio, you should only compare it to other companies within the same industry. The reason why you want to do this is it'll give you a good apples-to-apples comparison of the value and earnings of the company you are investing in. For my example, I'm going to use Google, and I'm going to show you how I got all this information. I just used Yahoo Finance, as you can see with the squiggly arrow showing you the price, and with the green circle, you see the earnings per share. I also point out the P/E ratio, just so you know what we'll get when we're all done doing our math. So, we're using the internet information industry for example. It's a good apples-to-apples comparison. So I have Google and Facebook. I rounded everything. So Google has roughly a $2,061 share price with an EPS of 59, giving us an EPS of roughly 35. Facebook, $268 share price with an EPS of 10. That gives us 26. So Facebook has a little bit better P/E ratio, which can possibly tell us a few things. Google and Facebook are undervalued compared to the S&P 500. When compared with one another, Google has a higher P/E, which could mean that the stock price is higher relative to earnings and possibly overvalued. Controversially, Facebook's low P/E might indicate that the current stock price is low compared to earnings. Let's look at another example in the drug manufacturers industry. So you have Eli Lilly and AbbVie. So Eli Lilly has a stock price of 208 with an EPS of 7, giving you a P/E of 29. AbbVie has a stock price of 108 with an EPS of 2.75. So in this example, the higher price, Eli Lilly, is actually a better buy regardless of the higher stock price. There are limitations to using P/E ratio. So some investors might be led to believe that one single metric could provide insight, but this is never the case. Before investing into a company, you have to take more calculations into account. Remember, you're competing against professionals and other investors. So investing is a zero-sum game, meaning there's going to be winners and there's going to be losers. Additionally, P/E ratio only takes into account the past 12 months, TTM, which stands for trailing 12 months. So you're taking everything from the past. The past will not predict the future. One way investors can predict future earnings is using forward P/E ratio, which is just share price over estimated future earnings, EPS. It's the same exact thing, you're just calculating the forecast of EPS and plugging it into the share price. Hopefully this video helped. Make sure you like and subscribe.